if we could stand for a moment of silence and then the pledge. And during the moment of silence, if we could keep our Commissioner John Patterson in our prayers. His wife has passed away, who served our board and served our community, and so we need to keep them in our prayers. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, we're starting out with the policy committee today, and we now have all the policy committee members present. We will start with the policy minutes for 2/13/24. If I could get a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Oh, second, sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, on this policy agenda today, we have 4.602 graduation recognition and Latin classification. The district recommended changes to reflect the national benchmark of 18. And if you will look at, and I misplaced my copy of that, so it's up on the board. This was just a small change on this, and Dr. Maddox, this was a TSBA recommendation?
Well,
or
what
district?
had happened during the change, I think we made a change back a few months ago, and we failed to recognize that there was a mistake that was placed on the benchmark.
Okay.
So it was added that it was a 22 benchmark for that category, but it's actually 18. So we're just making a correction.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we approve this 4.602 to go to the full board with that change.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that covers that one. And then the next one is the 5.6001 countywide employee dress code. Thank you, Dr. Maddox, and all that have gathered information from all of our schools, elementary and high school. I think all of that information will help us to put into perspective what we actually want to do with the dress code. The one that we had was extremely pinpointed and detailed, and we are trying to move away from that because, and this is my opinion, we have professionals that we hire in our school system, and we should allow them a little thought process of their own of how to dress. I mean, but what we are needing to do is get it in writing to where it is it is concise across our whole county instead of school to school. And so I'm going to open the floor for discussion, and y'all can let me know what you think, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'm looking at the feedback today. It looked like there were some similar themes, and some that said they thought the dress code was fine and nothing needed to be changed. So there was different feedback that was provided, but I was going to suggest that Mr. Stepp and his administration take the feedback back and take a look at the dress code and make the changes that they feel would reflect the suggestions and also the standards of our district, and then come back to us with their new proposed policy.
I think in the packet we have a sample of what one could look like.
That's what we had tabled last time because we wanted more, instead of it being subjective or completely principal controlled. We wanted to move away from that so that it is more uniform across the county. So that was why we had tabled that one. I think it's a great start of what you had given us.
Well, and also these two that we got, the feedback, are from the high schools.
One is from the high school, but we also have this one from the elementary that
Is it
Miss
all
Diane gave
elementary?
us.
Question. Is all the stuff y'all talking about right here in this agenda?
It is.
It is?
Well, the feedback we
Can
just
you
got
click on
today.
it?
The countywide employee.
So all
What
this-
you have in front of you was given to me throughout the day, right up to the start of the meeting, so the policy is on the agenda.
And so it goes in the discussion.
And so.
What goes in the
this-
discussion? Stuff that's not on the agenda?
Feedback,
Yeah, the
The
feedback.
feedback, we can discuss the feedback.
That's what,
what we were asked to collect.
Okay.
Have ready for.
Is there a proposed policy change?
And were you,
Look over the
it's
second
on this
page in
one.
the blue.
Th- This right here.
I'm asking if it's online.
It's on,
It's on the
the
agenda.
one originally,
Is it online, Miss Diane? Is the
What you
proposed
see-
change?
What you see on the agenda is the original, what is current in the district, the policy. The policy that the district redone at this last meeting that they tabled, director staff asked me to get copies for everyone, so you all have that in front of you.
For discussion.
The only thing you're seeing on the screen is their current policy that they're wanting to change, or you are going to discuss change.
Discussed changes are not available.
They're in front of you.
they're on, in front of us.
Okay.
so we don't, we got all the feedback and then we can develop something off the feedback once we,
Because that's what we did last meeting.
Yeah.
We asked for the feedback.
And
Yeah.
so now we're gonna discuss it in this meeting and.
Yeah.
Can we,
Because at one point, it was basically up to individual schools or individual principals or individual teachers. And so we wanted to make it a district-wide decision about what that dress code. So getting feedback from everyone is what we wanted, and that's what we got for discussion.
Well, and I wanted to go ahead and definitely have the discussion part as far as with all that, but just being able to just see some of the stuff that came in today wasn't enough time to go ahead and make complete decisions today on the policy. So that was kind of my recommendation too, as far as discussing it, but not making a final
Exactly.
decision today.
Yep.
Exactly. I think we need more time to look over and come up with a better idea. And yes, what Ms. Stout said, Mr. Stepp could go through and maybe look at all the feedback and maybe implement that into the suggestions that he had already made.
Right.
okay, can I ask a
Yes, you can.
We're wanting to relax the dress code?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, so if we relax the dress code, we put the building principals, we give them guidelines, and they follow those guidelines as the best of their ability. Is that what we're headed toward?
We're heading towards that, but one of the things that I know I've voiced and a few others have also is we want to move away from each individual principal saying what each school has to wear, what each employees at their school
So there's
has to wear.
guidelines.
So principal discretion is basically what we're trying to move away from and doing district-wide.
Yes,
When
in
y'all-
order to have a uniformity across the district.
When y'all are using the word "we," can you tell me who that is?
As the board.
Board, teachers.
There's been several of us on the board, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who all. I know I have voiced it. I believe we even discussed it last time of moving away from principal discretion. We were all here last month for the meeting,
Yep.
so let me change it to I want to move away from
Okay.
principal discretion so that we have more uniformity across our.
And I agree
I
with
want
that.
that too.
I agree with
Yes.
that.
Ms. Handy?
And have it clear from both sides, administrative and the employee side, what the guidelines are, so
Yeah.
there's no confusion.
Right. Right. It's like when I took over the pregnancy center, there were still leisure suits in our dress code. I'm like, no, I've never worn a leisure suit, I'm not going to. So we changed our dress code to fit the staff and volunteers at the center. So
Right.
that's what we're doing here. We're trying to make this a uniform thing where, I mean, these are respectful people. We have to respect that they know how to dress and they're not gonna walk around in boobs, bellies, or butts. That's my thing. They're not gonna do that. So we have to respect that they'll wear the right clothing and
not have to be dictated like our original policy of this and this and this and this, and that's just a little too much.
we're gonna be professional.
Is this blue section the proposed new language? Is that what?
That was what Mr. Stepp had presented to us last month, and we tabled it so that we could get more feedback from our administration, and also to work on trying to move away from it being principal discretion. We don't need 12 different aspects of what we should wear.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, and could we also look at the violations? Would it not be just easier to say,
That's a
go home, change
procedural
your
item.
clothes? Exactly.
He has a procedure that follows this. I did read that. And yes, I think some of that may have to be tweaked a little bit because,
But anytime that we can have a procedure separate from a policy, that's what I would recommend.
Yes, I think that's a good
yes.
idea.
And there is a procedure on this one? Okay.
There is, and so
It's included on the policy.
it is. But we do have a procedure for that. You know, sending somebody home to change clothes, okay, yes, or,
But I can take the feedback and have another proposal for you for the next committee meeting.
How many people did we send this out to?
it was to the high schools and to the elementary, but I'm not sure how many.
Go to
So my,
elementary?
so my ask is if we're gonna make decisions outside of opinions, why don't we use data and facts?
What data would you use for dress code?
If we're asking people, we should know how many people we're asking, how many people responded, and then I guess group those ideas together, right? So we can say 1,200 people said this, 400 people said that, 600 people said this, and then try to find some overlap or common ground,
Yeah,
and then
I
you can close
get
those
that for you.
gaps.
Do this.
It kind of seemed
Have their
from what,
principals hold their schools.
yeah, it kind of seemed from what we received that it was kind of a group discussion of however many people in, you know, maybe principals, assistant, I don't know, whoever else in administration, or, you know, got information from the teachers, but it seemed like it was a working, you know, effort, not just from one person that sent the feedback back based on, from their school or
So
anything.
can you summarize how many people you're talking
Well,
about?
I don't know.
That's what I'm getting at.
Well, but Mr.
That's-
Stepp said he
that's-
can get
that's-
that for you.
Okay, I'm just trying to
And I
make.
do want to make sure that it is teachers and other
Yes.
employees included in that, not just the principals, you know.
Yeah.
And no offense to principals, but I want some teacher feedback, some other employee.
Everybody
assist-
should
The
have
teacher
a
assistant, yeah, all of them.
Do they have a dress code?
Yes, I mean, they have like uniforms they have to wear. It's in, you know, it's in the original that,
Yeah, this
it
is,
says like other employees. Other
Okay,
system
that's
employees are currently required to wear uniforms, part of their normal duties, you know. That's in the original thing that's on, and this one's all structured.
Like nurses wear the scrubs,
But it's not separate, it's included.
it's included, yes.
Got it.
So,
And I guess data, right, we're back to data, I'll leave it alone, I know y'all get bored of hearing
I can
this
get all
stuff.
that for you.
Just talking about specifically like what is conducive to a positive learning environment, not our opinions, right? Like what does learning look like at the highest level? You know, is there a reason that people wear uniforms? Is there a reason people wear bikinis to teach in? I mean, I guess each audience has a specific goal in mind, but of our children, what is going to help them learn would be the decision-making process I think we should use based on other areas that have probably,
Is there
making
some kind of
teachers more
data that's gonna
comfortable
tell us
also
that?
helps them to perform better in the classroom. And I have heard that from at least 10 teachers.
and I'm not saying that you're wrong, I'm just saying as opposed to using hearsay and opinion, let's use data where people have actually ran reports, and let's use that to make a decision.
I trust
If we
Mr.
can come
Step
up
will
with
do
it.
that. Well,
So
ask Mr. Step with that.
I'm
Would you
gonna,
like to be a kindergartner teacher and go into and wear your three-piece suit and
No.
teach little ones and be on the floor?
No.
And I'm talking about you, a gentleman,
Sure.
being a kindergarten teacher, and you're going to be, crawling on the floor with them, building, all the things that goes on in a kindergarten classroom or a preschool, and you're in your three-piece suit.
So the parallel you're drawing to my attire has nothing to do with what I'm asking. What I'm asking is that we use data to make a decision. Not that we should wear, the data may suggest, you're alluding to the fact that the data may not suggest that we should wear skinny jeans and
No.
shorts too short. I don't have a preference. If the data says that you learn better underwater, let's all go swimming. Right? That's all I'm
so
saying.
Mr.
And there's
I'm sorry,
actually,
go
there's some
ahead,
people
Ms.
in here that
Boston.
think that the original one is okay. I mean, there's been comments to this,
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the data should reflect how kids learn.
Amen. That's good.
So,
If they're not the largest stakeholders in this environment, I don't know who is.
They are.
That's right. So we,
How
So,
kids learn
We can,
according to dress.
So this is not.
I'm gonna make a motion that we table this until next month and allow Mr. Stepp and his team to get with the administrators of their schools, all 12 schools, high schools and elementary, and get the data from the teachers and other employees, not just from administration. We need information from those that are in the room with those kids. That's where we need the information from. So that is my motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so that one is tabled once again.
Okay.
Maybe we will have this one cleared up before next school year.
maybe,
But I want our employees to know that we are listening, we are hearing you, we are trying.
yes, and your opinion matters.
Yes, your opinion matters, all employees' opinion matters.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to 5.803. It was tabled from last time, and we wanted more information from Mr. Patton to compare the current director contract and this policy and to see whether or not we need to add and put this policy back in our policy manual because we have not used this policy in quite some time, if ever. So, Mr. Patton.
Yeah, so I look back at the current contract, I look back at the statute, look back at policy 5.802, which also has some language in it concerning evaluation. Obviously lighter language than is in this full policy for the evaluation of the director of schools. But what 5802 said was that performance of this job will be evaluated in accordance with provisions of state law and the board's policy on evaluation of the director of schools. So the policy that's referenced in proposed 5.803 is Tennessee Code Annotated 492203A15. And what that statute specifically says is this, it has the same language that the proposed, that TSBA's proposed policy has in it, which is that the evaluation plan for the director of schools shall include, but is not limited to, sections regarding job performance, student achievement, relationships with staff and personnel, relationships with board members, and relationships with the community. Now, your current policy, or excuse me, your current contract with Director of Schools, the language that's used in that contract is that the board shall annually review with the director's performance as director of the Cumberland County School District, which covers the job performance. The director's progress towards goals established by the board and director, the working relationships of director with board, the staff, the students and community at large, and any other matters relative to the employment of the director. And it says the evaluation shall be completed by June 1st each year. You know, when developing a new contract, I would probably include the new statutory language and the language that's included in TSBA's current policy, regardless of what the board decides to do with this specific policy. But I'll say that the language that's in the current contract would be consistent with the law simply because it says anything else that's consistent with state law. And state law provides these specific areas that you evaluate on. Doesn't limit you, you can add others. But, you know, so you're open to adding some things that the statute doesn't include. You could do that by policy, but you don't have to. You could do that in the new contract, but you don't have to. So I hope that helps some.
So, I'm just making sure I understand.
Yep.
So, there really is no reason to put this policy back into the policy manual at this time.
Are you asking,
Or-
is it necessary for this board to adopt a policy for the evaluation of the director of schools?
And I guess because we've not ever used this policy.
I understand that.
So what I'm asking is, should we adopt this policy?
Would there be any reason not to adopt this policy?
What are the differences in the two?
Are you asking me what's the difference between 5802 and 5803?
Yes.
5802 we have in there, 5803 we do not, right? So
Right.
yes, what is the difference?
I mean, the
between-
only thing that 5802 really says about the evaluation specifically is that performance of this job will be evaluated in accordance with provisions of state law and the board's policy on evaluation of the director of schools, which I guess I should point out, it doesn't currently have. So we don't have a specific policy concerning the evaluation of the director of schools. Because of that, you're going to go by state law. I don't know that having this policy in place adds anything horribly substantive, because the policy essentially says evaluating pursuant to state law.
And that's already there, so.
The state law looks like we echo a portion of that in Mr. Stepp's current contract. But in looking at the policy for the evaluation of the director of schools, it sets what we're striving to accomplish through the evaluation. Then it's got the piece that echoes the state law in it, 7 through 11, lines 7 through 11. And then, starting on 14, it talks about some of the guidelines that'll be used during the evaluation process, which we don't have anywhere, which I think kind of helps put those guidelines and parameters around the process for us and Mr. Stepp.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think it's up to this board. I mean, this board can look at what proposed policy 5803 does. It probably memorializes some things that 5802 does not. You know, 12 through 22, you know, I don't know that I should really give this board an opinion as to whether I think a policy should be adopted or not. I don't think that's my role. to be
Okay,
fair.
thank you.
You know, but this.
But thank you for comparing
Sure.
and getting us the feedback. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up for discussion. What do y'all think? And what do you want to do with this?
When we had our workshop with Ben Torres in February, this policy came up when we were talking about the evaluation. And he had suggested this as a good policy to have. Again, putting those guidelines and parameters about how we work with Mr. Stepp on his evaluation. I brought it forward because I think it would be a good addition to have those guidelines in place. Takes it a step further than what's in the contract and what the state law says.
That was my understanding as well, is that we were going to modify policy to create more objective versus subjective evaluation that would match the contract, right? So we're saying if and when we hit these benchmarks, or if when we don't hit these benchmarks through the evaluation process or whatever measuring stick we've created through policy, that it's easily identifiable. So, because I think that's what we kind of learned
Yeah.
through the last couple of evaluations, was that we've got this, standard that we don't really do anything with. Right? It's just,
Yeah, a couple of things that Ben had said was, number one, what we were using was the TSBA sample, which are suggested questions that we could use, but we don't necessarily want to use it word for word, question for question, because we want to work with our director in order to put an evaluation together that's appropriate for the measurements that we've got in our strategic plan, whatever the challenges are with the district at the time, which this policy states that we'll work with him to do that. And Ben referred to this policy when asked about it and suggested that it would be good to adopt if we didn't have it.
Well, our strategic plan changes every 5 years.
Yeah. The
So
evaluation.
that means we change our policy every 5 years?
No, that means the evaluation may change in order to evaluate our current director at whatever those benchmarks are gonna be. Yeah, every year the evaluation may change. I know when I was working, every year my evaluation changed. My goals changed every single year. Some stayed the same, some changed. They have to change if we're gonna keep moving forward and growing, and striving, because hopefully, right, we're gonna reach the goals that we've set, so then we have to set new goals to reach
Exactly.
as a district.
yep.
So as we set new goals, there's more evaluation questions.
Ms. Stoll, do you have anything to?
No, I mean, I can see the benefits of adding the policy. If we don't already have it, and it seems that, it does go ahead and go into more information than the 5802, and then goes ahead and goes along with part of the contract as well, so.
Is there any more discussion on this? I will entertain a motion to send this to the full board.
I'll second that motion.
You have to make the motion first.
I'll make the motion that we send it to the board. And I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that is going to be sent to the full board. Mr. Stepp did give us another policy. It was not on the agenda, but Mr. Stepp, do you want to explain this?
Yeah, the reason I brought this up, and it came up today in a situation we're dealing with, out-of-county requests to go to school in county. That's been handled case-by-case basis, is my understanding. However, we have legislation going through. Some of it actually lists as open zones from school district to school district. And also, it used to be, taxpayer dollars. They want to keep people that were paying for the school system through taxpayer dollars just to be in the school system. Now, the TISA money, as I understand, it's going to be following the child from wherever they go. So something for us to think about is to take this with you, and this is going to be coming up here real soon. I don't know when everything's going to be passed, but this is the policy that will be affected by that legislation. So I just want to get this in your hands, get it so that we can all read through it and understand that this is talking about the term legal residence and being in county and all that kind of stuff. If the governor's legislation goes through, we'll need to revisit this. 'Cause
And we could do that on like next month or.
once
it goes
the
through.
legislation goes through, because now the money follows the child.
Okay.
So it's
And what policy is that?
6.205.
It's one of your
She laid it in
6.205.
front of you.
Should be in your stuff.
Oh, the student assignment,
So
okay.
I'm just making y'all aware that this is something that'll probably be affected by the law and that we'll have to start working on. And I've already talked to some elected officials about why we used to do things certain ways, and a lot of it was the tax base. They don't bring their tax dollars here, so why should they be in our schools? So
Thank
it's
you
just
for bringing
something
that to our
consider.
attention.
Thank you.
Does this mean county to county?
That's what he's proposing. So it'd be open zone statewide.
So like if
Fentress
someone.
County could come to Cumberland County?
Yes, and Cumberland County can go to Fentress, and we do have several Cumberland County students that go to, Fentress County.
'Cause they're on
That's
that far
usually a
end.
case by case. Directors talk to each other and it's approved that direction.
Yeah.
But now it's not really based
Now
on the
it's
tax
open?
base. It's not yet. It's proposed by the governor in the legislature right now.
Well, what about if they wanted to go from like school to school? Somebody wanted to go to North and somebody
So
wanted to go
that's
to
where, once they
Homestead.
pass the law, we already have a procedure for that,
Yes,
and
we
that's
do.
6.206. We have a procedure, a policy for that, and a procedure to transfer. And depending on how the law is listed, will tell us how we have to modify those policies.
Now, isn't the transferring of the students, part of it, I thought read that if there was room open to go ahead and move to the other?
Different language on that, but that has been considered also. And that's for us in county, that language is ours in county. So if there's not space at a school, then we can't move a child from one elementary to another elementary.
Right,
I
okay.
think they indicate staffing and space.
But it's a process, so you have to apply for it. We have a team that reviews all those, talks to me, and then we work through if there's room. Is this a good move? Is it not a good move? That type of stuff. So there's a whole process for that.
While we're talking about the zoning, I just want to ask you a question. I know we had discussed, making sure that like students that are going to school out of zone, are we fixing skyward to where those parents?
Yeah, that's all lined up, correct?
Thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to double check on that.
It's all correctly done.
Thank you very much. And if there's nothing else on the policy committee, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the policy committee.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, policy committee is concluded.